a place called the Swadhisthana Chakra. Draw the awareness of the breath there. As you inhale, carry the breath gently, smoothly, upwards, beginning from that Swadhisthana Chakra, carrying it all the way as high as you can on one smooth, unbroken breath. Try to get it all the way, if you can, up to your third eye, the center between your eyebrows, the Agya Chakra. If you can't get it there all the way on one inhalation, don't worry. Just carry it as high as you can, smoothly and easily. And then release and exhale. And drop back down. Back down to that Swadhisthana Chakra. And allow yourself to take the inhalations from there and to drop back down to there on the exhalations. Carrying that breath and feeling the energy of the body rise higher and higher on the inhalations. The breath, the energy, the focus and awareness rising higher and higher up to that third eye center. And on the exhalations, sinking deeper and deeper into the core of the self. And after you've exhaled, before the next inhalation, allow yourself just to rest there for a moment. Rest in that space. And as you rest there, notice how the energy expands. And then bringing it up on the next inhalation. If the mind wanders, just bring it back. Rising higher and higher in the inhalations and sinking deeper and deeper on the exhalations. Gently bring the palms of your hands together at chest level and rub them gently against each other. Cup your palms over your closed eyes. Slowly open your eyes and lower your hands. Welcome again to Satsang. We'll start with a question that's come in advance and then open it up to any questions that anyone here may have. How can I become calm as a wife, a mother, and a student? Well, you could substitute husband for wife. You could substitute father for mother. We're all students. You could substitute son or daughter or brother or sister for any of these relationships. And that's important because the lessons are the same for all of us. There isn't really a box of teachings for the wife compared to teachings for the husband, or teachings for the mother compared to teachings for the father. It's teachings for being the human experience of spirit, of soul, of love, of consciousness in relationship. And whether that relationship is as a parent, as a child, as a spouse. So how do we stay calm? Well, we look at that which steals our calm, and we do whatever we possibly can to prevent or remove it. Calmness, very much like peace or like joy, is actually pretty much our nature. If you look at children, the only things that make them uncalm are they're hungry, they're overtired, they've got a diaper full of poop or pee, or mom has left them and they're worried. That's pretty much all that really upsets young children. Rest of the time, if they're fed, they've had a good night's sleep, they've had a nap, mom is somewhere in the vicinity, or someone else they trust is, they don't have a diaper full of poop or pee, they're pretty calm. And I mention this because what happens as we grow is we start to think that stress, anxiety, is normal. And so we go out looking for peace as though it were something to be gained like this season's fashions or something, you know, that you really have to go to the department store because they're completely different than last season's fashions. And so, no, you can't wear what's in your closet. You have to go out and get it. But peace, joy. This is who we are. But it's who we are unadulterated by the games of the mind that they play in relation to the stimuli of the world. So the ego, the desires, the fear, the grabbing, the pushing, all of that is the game of my mind in relation to the world. So when I notice that I'm not calm, it's not about how can I find calm and dump it on top of the stress of who I am. Calm is not a new garment that I'm going to just put on top of the status quo and then I'll be calm. And sadly, a lot of us go out in search of peace, of joy in that way, as though somehow it were just yet another thing to be gotten. If I could just get a certificate in this or learn. But actually, who we are at the core is joy, is peace. But we've just dumped all of this other stuff on top of it. It's like that story that I love of the golden Buddha. There was this temple in, it's either Thailand or Cambodia, where they had this beautiful clay Buddha that was being worshipped in a temple, and the monks one day are cleaning this clay Buddha, and they notice that there's something shining from within it. And so they start cleaning a little more. And the more they clean, the more it's shining. And so they keep cleaning, and it keeps shining, and the shining keeps growing. And finally they realize that inside this clay there's gold. And so slowly, slowly they remove the clay, and they find a whole golden Buddha. And the story was that actually it had been the temple of the golden Buddha. But when the invaders had come in, they were looting and destroying and burning and stealing. And so the monks of the temple of the golden Buddha, to save it, had covered it with clay, thinking, well, nobody will be interested. And the Buddha had survived, but the monks and the other people of the community had not. And so no one knew that actually the Buddha was gold, and they'd been worshipping this clay Buddha for hundreds of years. And I love that story because that's how most of us live. We are golden. We are light, we are purity, we are consciousness, we are joy, we are peace, we are perfection, we are wholeness. And then we dump this clay on us, not on purpose. This is not yet another thing to feel guilty about. We do it because of the play of the ego. The ego kind of needs something to latch onto. It needs to think, I am this or I am that. I have to have an identity and identification. And with identity and identification frequently comes judgment. So I may identify as dark-skinned with the judgment that if I were fair, I would be better in some way. Or I may identify as being pale with the judgment that if I were a little tanner or a little bit more exotic looking, I would be better in some way. So I have an identity, and that identity carries judgment. Clay. We get clay from the outer world. The outer world gives us a lot of that. You're worthless, you're stupid, you're fat, you're skinny, you're this, you're that. Clay just keeps getting dumped. And then we're looking for gold. We're looking for divinity, for purity, for joy, for peace, for an experience of consciousness. And so we look outside for some way to plate gold over the clay. That if I could just find the right gold to cover this clay, I would be good. Without realizing that actually all we have to do is remove the clay and we are gold. And so when we speak about becoming calm, it's not about how can I find some way to plaster a thin layer of calm over the anxiety in me. Puja Swamiji tells a great story of a woman who had come to see him many years ago in America, and she was very upset and very anxious and stressed, and came to him and said, you know, do something. I need a mantra to overcome my anxiety. She said, at the moment I'm taking so much anxiety medicine. And he said, what are you taking? And she said, I'm taking medicine called Compose. It's evidently a very common Indian anti-anxiety medicine. So she said, I'm taking Compose. And she said, I used to take 1 to sleep, then I needed 2, now I need 4, and I still can barely sleep. And he said to her, he said, calm your pose. He's great with words. I mean, he's great with Hindi words as well. He's also great with English words. He said, calm your pose, and then you won't need to take Compose. And he said, you're posing your calm. You're posing your calm. So that's what a lot of us do. We pose our calm. So there's the anxiety, there's the fear, there's the grasping, there's the all of that. But we get this thin layer of something that we can just kind of plaster on top of that to pose our calm, so that at least from the outside we look gold. Again, without realizing that actually the core of who I am is gold. And so rather than looking for peace outside, that, oh, I can be happy temporarily or peaceful temporarily if I have enough to drink or have enough to smoke or go on the right holiday or, you know, take the day off of work or go shopping or hang out with friends or whatever it may be. Soothe myself with a, you know, large pizza and a chocolate cake or something. But that's very, very temporary. And that's the gold plate over the clay. And so instead of that, the question becomes, how can I remove the clay, which makes me not calm? Gave three things: a wife, a mother, a student. Okay, well, as a wife, what makes me uncalm? All the things that my husband should be doing that he's not doing. All the things he shouldn't be doing that he is doing. All the ways my husband should be different. Right? I mean, that's what, if we took a poll of all the wives in here and I said, what makes you uncalm? What steals your calm as a wife? You'd give me a litany of he does this and he shouldn't, or he shouldn't do that, but he does. He is like this, he speaks like that. If he just would do this, I'd be calm. Okay? So then, well, what steals your calm as a mother? All the stuff your kids do that they shouldn't, or what they don't do that they should. Again, same story. What steals our calm as a student? Well, sometimes it's all of that my teacher or my guru, I mean, she didn't mention whether she's asking it as a spiritual student or a student in school, but all of that which my teacher should be doing, my guru should be doing. But a lot of times it also goes deeper because it's my failure. That also steals our calm in all three ways. Where I'm a failure. It comes up especially as a student because the teacher, particularly if it's a spiritual teacher rather than just a biology teacher or a Spanish teacher. There's such an aura of perfection that if I'm not getting something, it's very easy for me to start to really berate myself and to start to feel like I'm even more stupid than I already think I am. I mean, my teacher or my guru has said it every day. Every day I listen. Every day she says this or he says that. I still can't get it. I'm worthless. There's no point. I'm never going to make it. And so that, of course, steals our calm. But again, it's there as a mother and a wife as well. We tend to think, oh, if only I could be better. So all of this, if you look, whether it's about someone else or about ourselves, it all has a very common thread through it. Something, someone, should be different. Whether it's me, whether it's another being. Something should be different. I am not calm because something should be different. That is what I need to remove so I can be calm. Otherwise, you go through life trying to adjust and adapt the circumstances so you can be calm. And what you find tragically is, again, a game of the mind, is the more things that you can push down and subdue, the more things come up. Because the lack of calmness is coming from the core of who I am, it's not coming from what people in the world are doing, even though that's what I've projected. That's why I'm upset now. So, until and unless I deal actually with the self, becomes like when I was a kid, they had this game in the arcade where you'd put in your money and it was a big board and it had a whole bunch of holes, maybe 15 or 20 holes. And out of each hole, a beaver would pop up or a mole or whatever it was. And you had this hammer that was covered. You'd bop and it would go down. And as in all the video games, the longer you went, the harder it got. I mean, their goal, the maker of the game's goal, was not that one kid should be able to play it for 2 hours. So as you got good at bopping, the beavers came up faster and faster and faster and faster. And you got to a point where it just was impossible to actually hammer them all down, and you were jumping all over the place, and then you missed enough and you had to put in another quarter and start all over again. And this is really what happens in our lives. Whether it's desires, whether it's the way that we want the world to change. You get one thing, if only. If only my husband would just work less. Okay, beaver 1, bop. I convince my husband to come home earlier. He comes home, he turns on the TV. Beaver. If only my husband would come home and pay attention to me. Bop, beaver, okay. He no longer turns on the TV. He comes home and pays attention to you. Now I can't get done what I want to do. Beaver 3, if only my husband would leave me alone so I could do what I want to do. Bop. And this is just one person, one relationship. Because ultimately my lack of peace is not due to him coming home, not coming home, paying attention to me, not paying attention to me, watching TV, not watching TV. These are just things that I'm able to hook my anxiety on and say, that's why I'm upset. This is why the same things don't impact everyone the same way. We each have our own, what we call sanskaras in Indian culture, or habits, or neural networks, or psyche, or whatever term we want to use for it, that predisposes us to being upset about different types of things. But what runs through them all? Things should be different. Things should be different. My life should be different. I should be different. The universe should be different. And so the only way is to give that up and accept the perfection of the present moment. Doesn't mean we throw a party when our husband is 2 hours late. Doesn't mean we celebrate getting sick or our child failing an exam. Accepting it does not mean we revel in it, we love it, we hope that it happens every day. We accept because being in peace is more important than being upset. Being calm, being anchored, being grounded is more important than a sweater on the floor. Or dinner being hot or cold. And so we learn to make our peace our highest priority. And again, it doesn't mean that we don't try to change our surroundings. It doesn't mean we become a complacent couch potato. But it means that we don't lose ourselves. You can work to change things without losing your peace over them. In fact, it's actually much more successful. When someone is trying to change you, I mean, think about your relationships. Think about being on the receiving end of someone wanting you to be different. A parent, a spouse, a child, an employer. Think about someone saying to you, fully calmly, fully grounded, fully in their own peace, you know, when you do such and such, or when you don't do such and such, here's the story that my mind starts telling myself. Here's the drama that starts in my mind. Here's how I react to that. And I'm aware of why I react. Here's my psyche or whatever it may be. But nonetheless, it would just be so deeply appreciated if you could blank. Compare that to someone saying to you, or rather screaming at you, "How dare you? I hate you. You're stupid. You're this. You're..." Which one are you more likely to respond favorably to? In the second we contract, our love contracts, our heart contracts, our energy contracts. So we're much less likely to actually change. So being grounded and anchored and peaceful doesn't mean that we just accept the status quo and never try to do anything about it. Yeah, hungry people, let them starve. Okay, no problem. My child failing out of school. Okay, no problem. I guess he can beg for money for the rest of his life. You know, it's not that. It's that none of that should be able to rip inside of me and steal my awareness, my experience, my peace. Out of that place of calmness, of groundedness, of anchoredness, then I'm able to work to affect change if that's what's necessary. Sometimes it's necessary, sometimes the only thing I needed to change is my own mind. But there are some times and some places where change is required. But the answer to change is not to become a stress case in order to make it happen. That never works. The universe doesn't respond to it. Your loved ones don't respond to it. So remove that which is stealing your peace. The idea that things should be different. Remove that. Anchor yourself in your breath, in the presence, in that experience of perfection of the moment. And then, if the situation requires action, act. If it doesn't, don't. But either way, you will be calm and peaceful. And then, not only will you find peace, but you'll find that you're actually a much better wife, mother, student. Because you're not trying to change the other person. You're not